As many of you guys know, I was born in Philippines and moved to Canada when I was 7 years old. It wasn't for another 15 years that I would return after I graduated from university. I was 22 and my parents figured it was time we all went back to visit. Now, 15 years away from your homeland can really change you. Although my parents did their best to preserve the culture at home, I kind of just stopped speaking Tagalog. I was able to fully understand it when my parents and other Filipino adults spoke to me, but I ended up just replying in English. I still use a few terms like saying opo to my elders and kain na to tell everyone it's time to eat and ang bango when I let out a fart. But other than a few phrases, I had a lot of trouble keeping up a conversation if I needed to reply in Tagalog as well. So I was pretty nervous going back, having to meet relatives that I barely remember, catching up with my cousins who were all grown up like me, and just adjusting myself back into the way of life in the Philippines. I think language was the hardest part. When people spoke to me, I knew what words and phrases to reply with, but it didn't feel right coming out of my mouth, so when in doubt, I just ended up speaking English but with a Filipino accent. They knew English well over there. It was considered a second language along with Spanish. Although my relatives were cool with it, I was always worried to speak to strangers. The whole way there, my mom kept warning us, specifically my younger sister and I, since we spoke the least Tagalog, to avoid speaking out loud because if we're in the jeepney and they hear you, they'll know you're not from here and want to kidnap you and hold you for ransom. So the first week or so, whenever we go out to eat or shop, I have to pretend like I'm mute in fear of my kidneys getting stolen and just hope my parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins can communicate for me. It wasn't until we went to this one salon that I realized it didn't even matter. My mom and sisters decided to get a mani-pedi and facial treatment and they extended the invitation to me. My dad was off hanging out with his brothers, so I decided, cool, yeah, let's make me beautiful. So we get there and my mom and my older sister go first. I'm chilling in the lobby, but it was kind of a small and intimate place, so I was still able to speak with my mom and sister along with the employees who were working on them. The two ladies are having a conversation with each other, and then I hear, "Gagawin din yung Koreano?" And I understood what she said right away because as I mentioned, I could understand Tagalog well, I just had trouble speaking. And at first I didn't realize what they meant because my younger sister and I were the only ones waiting in the lobby, and I got kind of intrigued like, whoa, there's Koreans here? In Mindoro? And then I realized, oh, they're talking about me. Because although I'm Filipino, I'm on the lighter skinned end of the spectrum, and Filipinos are generally known to be darker skinned. And even though I have small slanted eyes, I was like, me? Korean? I usually get Chinese or Vietnamese or Thai or whatever, but sure, okay, that's kind of rare. So then I realized it doesn't even matter if I don't reveal my weak communication skills when I already look like I'm not from here and can't blend in with the people. One thing I couldn't get used to was maids. Some relatives that I stayed with had maids in their household, which I didn't even realize were maids right away. Because these were people I haven't seen in 15 years with kids who weren't even around before I left. So when we got to their place and they didn't introduce the girl in the kitchen cooking breakfast, I was like, okay, maybe they will later. And in the Philippines, the maids and their family usually live with the main family, often in an extension of the house. So they were pretty much in service all day, every day. And we ended up never being introduced, so it was safe to assume that they were the maid. I just couldn't get used to having that kind of service either. I felt kind of spoiled in a way. I was raised to kind of just do shit on your own and take initiative, be independent. Even as a guest in someone else's house, I'll make the effort to pick up my plate when I'm done eating and bring it to the sink to wash or at least rinse out. The host might try to stop me, but I'd at least want to let him know that I have some level of decency and consideration. But in that situation, I was apparently in the wrong, and when I got up after eating my delicious longanisa and eggs, my cousin immediately interrupts and pretty much dunks my plate back down to the table, yells, "Kiki!" I forgot the maid's name, so I'm just gonna call her Kiki. And then the maid drops whatever she was doing in the other room, runs in, and collects my dish to clean at the kitchen sink. I had no idea how to react. I didn't know if I was being rude by trying not to be rude with my dishes, but it was the same thing at the mall food court as well. After I was done eating, I picked up my tray and looked for a trash can that didn't exist. Next thing I know, this worker comes out all panicked and pleads me to keep my trash and tray on the table for them to clean up. I was raised better than this. But overall, I'd say my trip was filled with amazing experiences. It was great to see relatives again since I don't really have any in Canada. And I got to travel around the different islands and really appreciate the country. Went to Palawan and floated through the scary-ass underground river. Went to Bohol and saw the chocolate hills, not actually made of chocolate. Visited my parents' hometown of San Jose in Mindoro and got to see where they grew up, and just going around Manila where I was born and seeing the culture and lifestyle that differed from what I was used to in Canada. Although I consider Canada my home since it contains the majority of my memories and experiences, I'll never forget my roots and where I came from, and hopefully you guys never forget your origins as well. This video has been brought to you by Ancestry, the global leader in family history and consumer genomics. I've always been curious as to where I came from and how far back down the bloodline I can see, and even though my parents have told me that we're full Filipino, I have my suspicions that there's more to it than that. So recently I've decided to discover more about my family history, using Ancestry's DNA service that allows people to uncover their ethnic mix, discover relatives, and find new details about their unique family history with a simple DNA test. So you might have a cousin in a country you never thought you'd be familiar with. I did my DNA test a couple of weeks ago and now have my results and have revealed it to my family on Christmas, and I'll be sure to show footage of that in another video. If you'd like to start your own DNA discoveries, Ancestry is offering a 10% discount if you go to ancestry.com/domics or click the link in the description. It's available internationally in over 30 markets, so almost everyone should be able to participate. You may find out things about your heritage that even your grandparents might be unaware of. I think one time my parents mentioned that we may have some Japanese in our blood, but because it's so far back down the bloodline, I've always just disregarded it whenever talking about my ethnicity with others. But now I may be able to shine some truth to it. If you guys end up discovering something totally surprising about your origins, share some of your results in the comments or post or tweet me and use #MyAncestry. Again, that's ancestry.com/domics, link in the description, and as always, enjoy!